What's up guys, it's Matt Collins-Jones here, also known as a D365 Geek, and today we're talking about Power Automate and the MSN Weather Connector, and we're going to look at one of the triggers, which is when the conditions change. So this trigger allows you to specify a location and then allows you to trigger a flow based on the weather conditions changing. So let's take a look at it. So I'm in Power Automate here, I've got my connectors and I can search in my connectors for MSN Weather, and I've got two triggers. And what we're going to look at is when the current conditions change. So we click that, and then the only two things we need to pass in are location and specifying the units. So the location can be something like a city, region, state, country, landmark, postcode, and long lat. So you can put anything in here. So in my instance, I could probably put something like Manchester. And then we can specify the units about whether they're going to appear in imperial or metric. I use metric, so I'll choose that. After that, we can use a compose step to just take a look at some of the actions that we can get out of this. So if I add the compose step and look at the actions or some of the data, I've got things like pressure, humidity, temperature, UV, wind speed, dew point, apparent temperature, visibility distance, wind gust speeds, all these different pieces of content I can then use to pass into my example. Now, one of the problems with this trigger, I'll say one of the problems, one of the problems I have with this trigger is that it's hard to actually test this. You have to actually turn the trigger on and turn the flow on and then have it do something. When you go to the test, it'll basically just sit there and wait for the weather to change. And seeing as I don't think any amount of my dancing or singing will make it rain, I've had to set this up and then come back to it at a later date. So here's one I made earlier in the Blue Peter moment. So I have a current conditions trigger here. It has a compose action that has 3 steps. It has UV index, temperature, and wind speed. So basically when the conditions change in my location, we're going to trigger and we're going to get these 3 things. So the top one will be UV index, next one will be temperature, and the next one will be wind speed. So if I go back and I look at this one, here's one that ran earlier, we can see that we get those inputs. So if we expand the current condition stuff, we can see all of the data that we get through here. So we get the conditions being mostly cloudy, we get the humidity, the temperature, the UV index, the location, we got the long lat where it's taking that from, wind speed, wind direction, all of these different pieces of content that we can use. So a good way to use this would be something like, say you work offshore, so say you're a fisherman, say you're an offshore oil rig driller, or you work at height, and you may need to be notified when weather conditions change quickly and get those notifications out to all your workers to make sure that they are safe. So if you're working maybe at height or you're working on an oil rig and suddenly the wind gets too high to be safe, you could automatically send a notification out to all those workers and say, hey, the weather's about to change or it is changing, please come down, we need to get back inside and make sure everything's safe. Or you could do something, something along those lines. So it's a really cool action to allow you to sort of get a bunch of information about the weather as and when it's changing. But as always, I want to know what you guys use this for, so let me know in the comments down below. If you do use this, do you update like maybe a widget or something on a SharePoint site to say what the current weather is when it's changing in your location? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, if you could like and share it with your friends, that would be much appreciated. If you've not already, hit the subscribe button and stay up to date with all my latest videos, and I'll see you next time.